Hi. For those that don't know me, I'm Virginia Walton, and I'm an executive burnout coach, helping women overcome stress, increase their productivity, and continue to be successful without burning out. Prior to starting my coaching practice, I spent 24 years in the banking and finance industry, where I worked my way from teller at a small community bank to senior vice president of a $27 billion bank by the age of 38. It wasn't family connections and fancy degrees. It was hard work, determination, and thankfully, I had some great coaches along the way. So now, I look to help other women have even greater success and do it with a lot less pain than I did, because I'll admit, I didn't do it the easiest way possible. So, let's get started. Today we're going to talk about self-assessments, right? It's that time of year. Whether your corporate HR calendar has them required, the performance cycle by the end of the year, or it's a January activity, it's right around the corner. And probably nobody's favorite part of their role. Judging yourself stinks. Or trying to remember everything you've accomplished and really sell yourself may not be as easy as you want to do. But we know it's important. As important as trying to fairly judge our team and that horrible task of dividing out the bonus pool, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what's at stake. Bonuses, raises. I mean, no matter how much you love your job, most of us wouldn't do it for free. Well, I said most. So before we get into the chaos of year-end activities, in addition to performance evaluation cycles, right? It's November. The holiday season is upon us. And it's still going to probably be more stressful than most, right? As there's the pandemic still luring and questions about family gatherings and all the stuff that we've been dealing with for the last almost 2 years. Stress about supply chains issues and delivery issues to try to make the best of the holidays. Then you've got work, right? You've got 2 months to meet your personal goals, your team's goals, the corporate goals, right? There's that year-end crunch for activity and reporting or volume. I certainly don't miss any of that. But so before all of that chaos and craziness gets into full swing, how about you do your own self-assessment? And no, I'm not talking about pulling out the goals and objectives you set for yourself at work at the start of the year or in the first quarter. I'm talking about assessing you as a person, as a whole person, not just the work piece of your life. If you've never done that, it's really important, right? Think about how important the performance review cycle is at work. Money is at stake, plain and simple. Why aren't you investing some time in assessing yourself? Isn't even more at stake than just money? The quality of your life? The relationships with your family? That all seems pretty important, and you can't really put a value on it. It may not translate into dollars in your savings account or in your investment account in 401k, but it's way more important in your life. So before the chaos, let's stop. This doesn't have to be a big formal process. We're rating yourself on a scale of 1 to 5, and I would encourage you to write it down, because there's something behind actually writing it down that will make it much more impactful than if you just sit and run it through your head while you're in line at whatever retailer you shop in, or sitting in the car waiting for kids, or stuck in traffic as people have started to go back to the office. Take some time. This Sunday, we all get an extra hour, sort of. Take that hour. Get out a piece of paper. Open up a Word doc. ask yourself some important questions. Yeah, you can start with your goals at work, your career goals. Those are important. Absolutely. Evaluate them. But don't stop there. How are you feeling? Mentally, physically? Right? January, most of us set some sort of weight goal for the new year. How'd you track to that? How'd you track to the resolutions you set or goals you set for January? Do you remember what they are? If you don't, maybe that's a good place to start. Why did I set these goals or resolutions? And 11 months later, I can't even remember what they are. Odds are you didn't achieve them. And if you're my people, you're type A, driven, achieving. You do it everywhere for everybody else. Or are you doing it for yourself? And if you're like, oh yeah, I've been working on it. But then the year got away from me. Things got busy. I kind of let it slide. You got 2 months left. Refocus. Okay, you may not make the goal. Okay, you'll make progress. If you give up, you're definitely not going to make progress. I know I had one goal. I was making good progress, and then life happened. A major thing came up, and I focused a lot of energy, and it was a huge success. And I can count that in my assessment, and I know that I prioritized that over one of my other goals. Okay, that's done. I'm going to get back on track. I may not make my goal. I probably won't. But I'm going to get as close as I damn well can. I got 2 more months. Even if you miss, you've made progress. Or are you sitting here thinking, I gave up setting resolutions because I never make them. I never hit them. So why even bother? Well, the new year is right around the corner. How about you sit and ask yourself, why have I given up on improving myself? Right? You encourage your team, your kids to grow, to learn more, to be better every day, right? Are you encouraging yourself? If not, why? Are you exhausted? Are you just mentally, physically drained? Yeah, it's okay. Do you want to just keep living the next decades like that? Probably not. So what are you going to do to change? Figure out where your stress is. What's really driving that exhaustion? Is it you're not getting enough sleep? Or is it some big uncertainty hanging over your head? The answer is different for all of us. Figure out what's going on with you. Because remember, you're not the only one experiencing how you feel. It impacts how you show up. And guess what? How you show up in life includes how you show up at work. And where does that impact you? The performance review cycle. So dollars and cents are on the line. Maybe not as directly as, you didn't get to the sales growth target or have the efficiency ratio you needed. But if you're showing up exhausted, stressed, I recently read one of the signs of burnout is edginess. Are you that person in the office on the Zoom meetings? Are you the one who's distracted and frustrating your colleagues because you're getting things done at the very last minute? Are you impatient? Are you getting snippy? Oh yeah. Because people won't remember the 9 times that you're awesome. They'll remember the one time that you were bitchy. Hate to say it, but that's what sticks. And you don't want that to be what gets remembered as they're doing evaluations, especially if your boss seeks peer feedback as part of the evaluation process. So really, Think about how you're showing up. Forget about work for a minute. That's going to be, how are you showing up at home with your family, with your friends, right? We're coming into the season of family gatherings. How's that going to be? If you're tired, exhausted, frustrated, and then on top of it, trying to host a family and gathering and worry about the pandemic and, how far should we be apart? Should I make sure everybody's vaccinated? Should we try to eat outside? Right? Oh, yeah. That's going to be great. So if you've got all this stress and exhaustion, how are your kids feeling? There was an example that came to mind. A few years ago, I was at our high school's senior night for the field hockey team because I know a bunch of the girls, having coached them when they were younger. And the way ours works is the girls get to write a little blurb about their experience, their future plans after high school, and then who is escorting them, which is typically their parents, sometimes maybe some siblings or grandparents. And so at this particular one girl, I don't remember what her plans were, her favorite memory of coach, but I do remember her saying that she was escorted by her mom and maybe grandma because dad chose to be at work rather than be there. Now, I remember those parents from when they were in the younger leagues. He was a pretty involved dad, would help line the field and cut the grass lower if the town hadn't cut it low enough for a game. So from what I know, I'm thinking that probably wasn't an easy decision. And I don't know the circumstances. But it was pretty clear how she felt. And she made that clear very publicly. Now, Brene Brown, in one of her books, shares a similar experience. Her daughter, too, played field hockey. And Brene was all planned to be at that senior game, senior night. Had the big heads, pictures of the kids, right? And was on a business trip and had it all worked out. And then her flight was delayed. And then she could see what was starting to happen and anticipated that flight was going to be canceled. And she had her colleague that she was traveling with and her team in her office start looking for alternatives to get her home. She needed to be home. By that game, she needed to be there. And because of how she is as a person, her team rallied around her. They didn't say, what do we care? You don't care if we're there for our kids. And they did their best. But it was out of her hands, and she didn't get home in time. But what she shared was her daughter understood. And the parents rallied and sent videos and pictures as much as they could to try to make it as real for her to be there as possible, right? They probably gave her daughter extra support. The difference is how they showed up as people and how their daughters experienced it. Now, the circumstances were probably not the same, but those are the kind of questions you should ask yourself so that when those situations happen and you can't be at life's important moments like you want to be, how are your family and friends going to react? Are they going to know that, listen, this is hard on them? Or are they going to think, are they going to help? Or be like, piss off? These are the questions you need to ask yourself. And if you're getting the answers, thinking, I don't know that I'd get a lot of support. It's time for change. If you're tired of feeling exhausted, if you're realizing that you're the edgy person in the room and it's impacting your relationships with your peers, ultimately that one's going to cost you financially. And worse, if you're that way at home, it's going to cost you way more. So ask yourself the questions. How am I feeling? How am I showing up? How are my family and friends, my colleagues, my peers, my community groups? How are they receiving me? And if you love the answers, awesome. Keep doing this process. And if you have some questions that you kind of have to choke back, go, that might not be ideal. Make a change. Because it's going to cost you something. In another talk, we'll talk about the cost, little cost analysis, right? Listen, I'm assuming your fiscal year for your organization is 12/31, and if you were looking at your metrics at the start of this month and how you performed for the first 10 months and you weren't on track to hit them, you know it's going to impact not only you financially, but your team. You'd be pulling them together and you'd be rallying and making the changes to hit those metrics and get it knocked out of the park because you're that kind of person. Do you apply that same principle to your personal metrics? The quality of your life, the quality of your relationships, the way you show up everywhere. I've listed all these other people that experience you that you have a direct relationship with. Think about the people you don't know that experience you. Right? The cashier, the associate who's going to have to tell you in whatever store you're shopping at this holiday season that, sorry, we expected a delivery, but we didn't get that one thing that you were hoping for, that you wanted is the only thing this person in your life wanted as a present. It's not their fault. How are you going to make them feel? How are you going to show up? If this resonates, but you're like, I don't know how to change. I don't know where to start. Or I might be that person, but I don't know. How do I find out? I'm just trying to get everything done off that never-ending to-do list. And especially it gets worse as we get into the end of the year between work demands, family demands, holidays, Christmas pageants or whatever your community groups, dance recitals. I'm here to help. This is too important. This assessment is more important than those performance cycle reviews you're about to enter into. So let's talk. If you don't know how to do this or you're ready for change, we should talk now. And you're probably thinking, great, one more thing on my list, thanks. No, make the time. Because you don't want to feel the same way this time next year. So let's put a plan in place to make 2022 different. So when you do this exercise sometime next year, you're like, wow, I'm making progress. I see the difference. I feel better. I see more smiles when I'm with people, the people I love, the people I work with, whatever. Hey, how are you going to feel when a server in a restaurant comes up and apologizes, says, you know what, I'm sorry, I forgot to put your drink order in. Totally my fault. Are you going to tear them a new one? Are you going to say, okay, thanks for acknowledging that you made a mistake. I'll take my drink now. Yelling at them isn't going to change the fact you didn't have your drink. You're going to make them feel worse. Never anger somebody who has access to your food. And you're not going to feel any better. But if you're so exhausted, that's all you're going to be able to take. And it's going to come out on them because you're going to go. So, let's talk. Drop me a message on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Check out my website, virginiawalton.com. And remember, maybe this wasn't what you needed to hear, but maybe one of your friends does. So share this video. You might be helping somebody more than you know. And maybe you do know who needs to hear it. It is the season of giving. With that, be well.